Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who hasn't always known how to do these end of, best of the year kind of videos. The first year of my channel, I did a sort of mixtape with my favorite tracks. It was okay. Last year, I did a very standard kind of top 10 of the year, which was fine. But this year, I want to do something a little bit more involved, a little bit goofier. I want to do a sort of award show, right? The Professor Paine Albums of the Year Award. Now that's a mouthful, so I'm going to shorten it. I'm going to shorten it to the Stampies. Every album that I review, I pick a favorite song, I give it Skye's stamp, so why not call these the Stamps of the Year, the Stampies? As Bart Simpson once said, I think I'm going to call it Stampy. I should say that every review that I do is a positive review. So if an album is nominated and wins, that's an honor. If it's nominated, it's an honor. And even if I don't nominate it and I reviewed it, it's still an honor. It's part of what makes this channel, this part of the goal of this channel, is to celebrate human creation in the musical form. It is not to look down on things. It is not to say things are bad. It is to raise up what is good. Okay? So I want to stay in that mode, you know, because I started this channel when I realized I was out of touch with music, that music meant so much to me, and I felt like it was draining my life. And I wanted the vitality of trying to understand new music and no longer be in the mode of just like, things used to be good when I was 20, and instead learn about what's good now. So this is a celebration of art, a celebration of human creation, as well as an award show that's divided into a whole bunch of weird categories that it took me a long time to create. I also created a whole poll and a voting system for all the auditors, all of you who watch, to vote for what is your favorite album in each category. And so I'm also going to be talking about what wins the audience award as well. It's not always going to be the same. Sometimes it will be. Now, it is a very subjective award, right? It's what do I like, right? So it's not objective at all. But it's also very influenced by my family. What do they like? Because if they like something, I'm more likely to hear it more while I'm cooking or driving or doing whatever. So it's kind of double subjective. Okay, so I'm looking over there, I'm laughing a little bit because I have a couple assistants right now. Goat is going to be offering some assistance, and right next to her is Toby. And Toby the dog is for some reason incessantly licking his paw. You just let him go, Goat. Just let him go. If you hear a little bit of licking in the background, that's Toby licking his paw. You just can't stop a dog from licking his paw if he wants to. So, another thing to note is that this is going to be a pretty long video, probably. If you're just interested in one category or another, speaking of stamps, I'm going to put timestamps in the description. So you can go and jump to the section that you like, if you like pop or hip hop or rock or whatever. Okay? So, I think we have everything all set there. Goat is also going to give her album of the year, the greatest of some time, the Ghosty. So you have to hang around for that at the end. You want to say hi, Goat?
Hi.
Yeah, she's still trying to stop Toby from licking his paw. It is basically impossible. He's a very obstinate dog, as my viewers know. And also at the very end, I'm just going to show you a viral video from Serbia that has to do with stamps. That is the funniest viral video you've never seen. It will change your life. It is so funny. But let's get into it. Let's get into these categories. Let's start giving away some stamps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the nominees over here. I'm determined not to edit this video, okay? Not to do multiple takes, not to have a script, just to do it my way. So there's sort of a lot of stuff around me, and that's a little bit annoying. I'm a little bit like boxed in, but it's okay. I'll still do lots of my hand talking. So I have all the nominees here, and then I'm going to dip this stamp into ink and stamp the winner. Now, I didn't have any stamps here, so the very industrious and crafty Goat made me a potato stamp. She took a potato and she said, "What do you want the stamp to say?" I said, "I want the stamp to say stamp." And she said, "Can do." And then she ran out of space and it just says stam. So, you know, you get what you pay for. And I don't pay Goat. So let's get to the most difficult category for me to choose. I wanted to start off with a hard one, the post-punk category. Quite often, I'm a middle-aged man, and I know a lot of other middle-aged men. Quite often, they talk about how rock and roll is dead, how it's all been taken over by hip-hop and bleep and bloops and keyboards and stuff like that. This post-punk category completely defies that. These are all young, up-and-coming or already arrived acts that are extremely vibrant. They make guitar-based music, that is a little bit more complicated than sort of simple rock and roll. It always has some added element to it. I did comment that there appears to be a theme on a lot of these albums about the nature of existence and questioning the nature of reality and truth, which I think reflects a lot of our day and time. So this is one of my favorite categories, and it's also the one which I buy the most music from. My family very much likes this whole category. So first of all, I'm going to say who won the award from the audience. It was the Idols, and it wasn't even close. They just crushed it. But they're not going to win. They're not going to win the stamp. I'm sorry, Idols. I liked that album, but I didn't love it. In a similar way, Fontaine's DC, I really enjoyed, especially the song "Televised Mind." Is maybe the catchiest of the albums. I had a funny experience where in the review I said, "This guy's from Ireland, but he sounds like he's from England." All these people started just, "Oh, Skye, you don't know what we're talking about. He's so from Ireland. He's so from Ireland." But then the singer's mom, his mom, sent me a message saying, "Don't worry, Skye, I'm from England. He does have a little bit of a British accent." So I'm not saying I was right, but I could have been a lot more wrong. What I'm going to do is I'm going to narrow it down to these last three. And these are three albums that I ended up actually buying. So I bought The Witches, which if you haven't heard it is excellent, kind of like a surfy rock, great instrumental breaks. Just a great, great album. The Witches, 3 Mile Ditch. I bought this for my daughter. She really enjoys it. I even got her the autographed print from it, and that is pretty cool. Also, Proto Martyr. Now this one I bought, but my son liked it so much that, don't tell him. He doesn't really watch my videos. His friends do. I got him a sealed copy that I'm going to give him so he can have a copy at his mom's house so he can always listen to Proto Martyr. That's how much he likes it. As far as I can tell, this has been his favorite new album of the year. And then we're going to have the Skye choice. My personal favorite from this whole section, Sports Team. It's really tough. It's basically a three-way tie, but this album is so catchy, so interesting, so well produced. It's very aggressive. It's very aggressively against middle-aged men. Like, I feel like these people hate me. But this is going to get the first ever recipient of the Stamp of the Year. It's going to go to Sports Team. In particular, if you've never heard them, check out the song Here's the Thing. I'm dipping this in some orange. I'm going to see if this works, Goat. Okay, I got that like that. Oh boy, that's bad. That doesn't... Goat, something didn't happen. It's okay. I'm going to let that dry there for a little bit. But Sports Team wins the Stamp. Good job, Sports Team. All right. Now, the next category is a little bit easier, I would say. This is best sort of rock non-post-punk. I did buy a couple albums from this category as well. Trying to get through to find them all here. I will say that King K. Rool and Tongue are albums that I very much enjoyed, but I don't think are going to make it on here. And also, I mean, Chicano Batman is an album that I bought and I very much enjoy. In particular, my wife really enjoys this album a lot, a good example of that. And also Holy Hive, if you're looking for kind of a nice laid-back album that is mostly drum-led, like both of these are very underrated albums. I think you should definitely get those if you've never heard them. But as you can probably tell from what's behind me, so I have to go, I organized all these albums right before, and then I undid it all. There we go. As you can probably tell by what's behind me, the Stamp is definitely going to go to Tame Impala. Let's see if this works better this time. Hey, you were supposed to write it backwards. Now it's going to say Maths. Okay. I bet you back there in the audience were probably thinking that the whole time. Tame Impala is going to get the Maths, the Stamp of the Year. It's funny because in the video I said, does anybody actually listen to this music? Does anybody actually love Tame Impala? And then I bought this album. I loved it so much that I went on eBay and bought the signed poster. Because how often can you get a poster signed by the entire band for like under $200? It is super awesome all the way through, very cohesive. His drumming is so good. In particular, the song On Track, we listen to it all the time in this house. It's nice because it's the beginning of side C on this. It is just a wonderful album, and I think really the best rock album that we have so far. We're getting so close to having a good stamp here. A good mats. Okay, that's going to just stick together. All right, now we're going to be moving on to the next category, the thriving survivor. Now this is the most bizarre category, right? Because this is totally subjective. Even the category is subjective. It is artists that I liked before I went to sleep. So I call myself the Rip Van Winkle of music criticism because right around 2002, I became old. I stopped listening to new music. And so when I came back in 2018, musicians who are still around, I put them in this category of thriving survivors, right? And like people who managed to live through that whole time, and I can look back at them. In general, this category, could have been filled with, Pearl Jam and Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen. And Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan are definitely on there. I like both those albums, even though I don't like Bob Dylan fans. You guys are jerks. Would you back off? I can't help that I don't like everything Bob Dylan's ever done. God, hey, the most uptight and fragile fans. I would say this really comes down to between the Flaming Lips, the Streets, and the Strokes. The Flaming Lips album was a wonderful chance for me to really connect with their music in a way that I hadn't before. Even though I liked them before, like to really listen to it. And I would say that age has done a lot to make their music better. The Streets as well, I was very surprised to hear that the Streets are capable of making relevant music still this late. But the winner, and it's not even close, has definitely got to be the Strokes, so we're going to give that. Let's see how this works here. Come on. There you go. So it looks like Stamp to me because I'm looking at my phone and my phone is reversed, but it just says Mats. But this album is just astounding. It is so good. It's funny because I didn't want to like the Strokes when they first came out because they were so popular and so douchey, the Shia LaBeouf shirt and everything. But like, I can't help it. Even though these are, private school trust fund kids who just make music and are little brats and jerks and all these things that have been swirling around them for as long as they've been around, they are great artists. And this album, and it's not just because Rick Rubin produced it, but that definitely helped. This album is just unbelievable. It is just a superb album. The only part on it that is not great is the last song, Ode to the Mets. And I will say, the success of this channel is largely due to this album. My review of the Strokes is what got me over the 1,000 subscriber, and the #1 comment that I got was, Skye, you need to keep listening to Ode to the Mets. It's really good. It's just not. It's a good song, but it is definitely the worst song, and I don't think it's definitely a low point on this album. But you can still be mad at me. That's okay. It could also be because as a child, when I was 10 years old, 9 years old, the Mets beat the Red Sox in the World Series, and I'm still mad at the Mets, even though they're pathetic now. It could be. So this album definitely wins. It's not even really close. This is, as you will see at the very end, I'm going to have a contender for overall album of the year. This is probably going to be a contender for that. I actually haven't decided that yet, so I'm still figuring that out. So let's move on to pop. So this has been an interesting year for me to learn a lot about pop, about the nature of pop and the way that it's changed. To be open to it, right? To listen to it and not just dismiss it as I have for most of my life as a music snob. In particular, I've been very happy to get to know Carly Rae Jepsen better because I'd always heard the rumors that she was more than nothing, that she was more than just a throwaway pop star with one funny song, and she truly is, and it's truly a great album. I'm very happy to know that. But in this case, I would say, and one thing to know, I am splitting this between pop and hyperpop. Okay, so we'll see. It's kind of an interesting distinction that I'm making, but it's sort of between pop that's more traditional and then pop that is more this kind of future of pop, this multi-pop, this hyperpop, this kind of more aggressive, industrial, glitchy, intentionally abstract pop music. Okay, a lot of this falls in that category as well. These categories are definitely merging together, but I'm gonna have to give this award to Oliver Tree. Goat's happy about that. Goat was on my Oliver Tree video. Were you? No, Goat wasn't on the video, but Goat was very excited. And then Oliver Tree also showed me on his Instagram, which on TikTok, which apparently really impresses my kids' friends. So there you go. But that's not why. I just like the album. I like the way it's produced. I think it's the best as far as like a straight poppy album. Like I said in my review, it reminds me a lot of what I like about Weezer. I also like his personality. I like his lyricism. I don't like his shipping time though, because I ordered this album for my daughter like 6 months ago and it still hasn't come. Hey Oliver, why don't you stop complaining about your record deal and start sending my daughter her album. Then we get to this category, which is definitely one of the most challenging categories for me. So this idea of hyperpop and what I call multipop, but doesn't really matter, this aggressive music, it's really hard to separate it between the two different genres, right? Like I put Charlie XCX on here, but really she could be just regular pop, or is she this multi-pop? It's all kind of mixed up and all mixed up all together. I have purchased 2 albums from this category. The first is the 100 gecs album, which I purchased for my son. As I've told before on this channel, he started liking 100 gecs, ironically. Like, ha ha ha, this is so bad, can you believe this junk? He now loves them unironically. All of his friends loved them ironically and now loves them, you know, totally ironically. Unironically, right? So I think that says a lot about our moment in pop culture in this sort of post-modern world that we're living in, that an album that is probably, you know, one of the most loved albums by the youth of today's generation is both loved and ridiculed at the same time. But the award this year is not going to go to 100 gecs. It's going to go to this album, Arca's album, Kick 1, which I thought it was Kick I, right? But it's not. It's Kick 1. You'll see this is sealed. This is going to be a Christmas gift to my friend Stella. She does watch some of these episodes, so in the event that you're watching this, surprise, that's what you're getting for Christmas. But she's a lot younger than I am, and I couldn't believe that she didn't know and love this music because it was so similar to so many music acts that she had played for me in the past. This album is a very important album to me because it showed me, the question that I asked was like, does anybody actually listen to this music and enjoy it? It is so discordant, it is so disjointed, and like, what's going on? I'm going crazy. Why am I listening to this? This is torture. I like it, I don't like it, right? Like I understood the art of it, right? Sorry, that keeps shining. I understand the art of it, but what I didn't understand was the enjoyability. And the way that it was responded to in the comments about that helped me to understand it. And then I've just been listening to it and I get it, you know? It's kind of like the way heavy metal takes a while to get used to listening to, industrial music takes a while to get used to. It's very avant-garde, but it is ultimately very listenable, and it is the kind of thing you can just listen to and bob your head to and be happy. So Arca wins the stamp for Best Multipop. Now I am going to give an extra stamp right here that I wasn't going to, but I am going to because I realize Charlie XCX deserves one too, because she's the only one who I would say belongs definitively in both categories. And in that way, I think she deserves a stamp. So good job, Charlie. She also wins the most coveted album of the year. So a lot of albums are very coveted. I think that was the best example of a coveted album. That's me dropping the albums over here. And seriously, buy some music. Hey, would you put in the comments, what music did you buy? And I don't care if you bought it off Bandcamp for 10 cents. Put in the comments, what music did you actually pay? Did you actually pay an artist for? Okay, so the next category is kind of a catch-all, electronic music and instrumental and just sort of like kind of a mixture there. I didn't do too much of that here. I included Pinnock, which was a version of Bach, which I really enjoyed. Avalanches, which came out very recently, which I really enjoyed and almost won this award. Apache, which is sort of the most strictly EDM, which is this great kind of like orchestral mix with techno, and it has one of my favorite like 10 seconds of music that I've ever heard. Go-Go Penguin is a good example of a sort of jazz group that does things that are interesting and that are very palatable to people who are not used to listening to jazz. But that does leave the award going to another band that does not know how to ship their damn albums, Chromeo. Now, it turns out this band, first of all, this is a band that GOAT oh boy, Goat really doesn't like. Goat is always trying to, because I thought Goat would like Chromeo, so I used to always try to play Goat the music, and she'd say, I don't like it. But this album, I just gave out the COVID award to Charlie XCX. It might be a tie with Chromeo, their album, Quarantine Casanova. It is a ironic dance disco album about the coronavirus and its result. And it's a very funny, very smart album. Chromeo fans do have the worst view time award as well. So I call it, oh, COVID's a joke, and I start off the whole video in this kind of like contradictory way of like saying that Chromeo is being, trying to be funny with a very serious disease. But if you watch the rest of the video, Chromeo fans, you'll see me purchasing the damn album on camera. Because, of course, they're making a joke about it, but they're doing it in a serious way. That's what makes it such a great album, is that it's able to be both serious and light at the same time. It is exactly the album that we needed, and I really enjoy it. And I can't wait to receive it in the mail eventually. Eventually. I would love to get this album eventually. I don't have it yet. Much like the new Andrew Bird Christmas album, which we will get at some point in July. Okay. Now we're going to get to the rap section. Now here's an interesting idea that I had. How do we divide rap albums? The traditional way is sort of like mainstream and indie, but to me that's not the best way to do it. I think that there's a couple different ways I was going to do it. One, I was going to sort of go the traditional, well not traditional, but a kind of provocative political way of seeing some rap as being more true to socialist values and other rap being true to capitalist values. So the socialist being about like collective well-being, a little bit more politically minded, and then capitalist being all about myself and getting money and being rich. If you want to watch a video I made, watch the video Right-Wing Rap in France. I explain this quite clearly. Even if you don't care about French rap, it's one of my better videos. It's actually a lecture that I give to my students. But I thought that's too political and it's not clear enough. Instead, I wanted to go back to my French roots where they're obsessed with the difference between being, having, and doing. Chartres has a great essay about that. And about these very important verbs. And when you teach language, these are the most irregular verbs in all languages: to be, to have, and to do. And they're also, the reason they are irregular is because irregular verbs are the verbs that are used the most, right? Those are the verbs that you use the most, and they get abused by our mouths and our brains throughout the centuries. So when I teach these verbs, they're very important verbs. And I realize that hip hop is in very much a real way. There's rap that is now about having. That's the capitalist mode, but it's just about having things. It can be money, it can be women, it can be power, but it's a sort of display of consumption, but also a display of like your worth being shown by what you have consumed, okay? And then there is the being and the doing, which is the other side, which is a little bit more cerebral, which might be more political, which is not mostly dedicated to having things. Now this sounds like a criticism, and it kind of is, I guess, because having things is less interesting than being things or doing things. But the way that hip hop has developed, I think it's stupid and to just dismiss all of the music that happens to be about having. So Freddie Gibbs won the Audience Award, and it wasn't even close. I should mention that Arca won the, Carly Rae Jepsen won the Audience Award for Pop. Arca won the award for Hyperpop, and Freddie Gibbs won the Audience Award for Rap Having. Don't worry, Goat, I'm not going to restart the video. I had to restart the video 3 times because I kept on forgetting things. So Freddie Gibbs won according to the audience. He's not going to win my award. I was tempted to give it to Juice WRLD because that's sort of the most unexpected thing, that I really liked Juice WRLD and I liked what it was, but I re-listened to the album and there's just not enough strong tracks on it. I really love his charisma. My son actually had a whole conversation like it's too bad that he died. He still had a lot to contribute. I think that's true. Megan Thee Stallion, I really like that album as well. It's not quite up there. It was always going to be one of the Griselda albums for my favorite albums of the year, for rap albums that are about having things. It's definitely between these two, Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine. It's probably the less popular pick, and this is basically representing all Griselda, but I'm definitely giving it to Conway the Machine. From King to a God. What an amazing album all the way through. Mostly produced by Hit Boy. Great production, great rapping. Just, I love his atmosphere. I love his ad-libs. I love his rhymes. He's just so capable of making so many great tracks, just track after track after track. And his EP with The Alchemist last year too, I mean, that could be on there as well. It's just an amazing album that is so well produced and just so solid. Like, does everything that you want. Now here, we ended up in a very funny category. You'll notice I don't own any of these albums. It's very difficult to listen to rap in a house like this. It's not that it's not liked, but it doesn't lend too well to the kind of flow of daily life. So I don't own much rap on vinyl. This category is the second hardest to choose. I love all of these albums. I love Open Mike Eagle for its confessional tone, for the fact that he manages to talk about what it is to go through a divorce in a completely accurate way. I love Action Bronson because I didn't expect it. I love his personality. I love that he talks about food. He's totally oddball. He's just totally out there at all times talking about dolphins, but the production all the way through is just fascinating and well done, and I like his rhymes and his style. Lupe Fiasco came really close to winning, but it was just an EP, but still, as far as like the density of my favorite albums of the year, Lupe Fiasco, the EP House is just unbelievably good. J Electronica, both of his pieces, here I'm talking about a written testimony, but a really great album, but ultimately it has to go to Run the Jewels. I really thought about this for a long time because I love all these albums so much, right? Like, I really do. Like, these are all excellent albums, which if you haven't listened to, listen to them now. But Run the Jewels, for not just being like, it gets zeitgeist points, right? It gets points for being such a great piece of art that talks about the political moment that we're in, and the difficulties that we've been having as a society and a culture, and it's able to do it in a way that's positive and abrasive at the same time. And it's just a great album. It also happens to be the most successful video that I've ever done. That's not why it won. But definitely that is just a superior album. I would also say that that it's, I'm sorry. Did you hear Toby again? He made me lose my train of thought. I should also say that Run the Jewels won the poll, and it wasn't even close. Okay, we're now going to get to, this is where we're getting to the real deal. So it turns out, looking at all these genres, the music that I enjoy the most and that my family enjoys the most is actually this kind of singer-songwriter genre, okay? I mean, I have got Eve Toomer on here, okay? Totally psychotic. I could have put this on Multipop. I could have put this on rock, all over the place. Instrumentally, it's interesting. Lyrically, it's interesting. It's very much of the time in terms of its themes, of sort of sexuality and fluidity. A awesome, wonderful album. The album that won the award by far, Fiona Apple, Fetch the Bolt Cutters. I would like to tell you a funny joke about my daughter. So she thought that because I talked about this album and I talked about how the dog is everywhere, right? Because Fiona Apple appears to have difficulty having friendships with human beings, or relationships with human beings, but no difficulty with dogs. So I said that. So she thought that the dog's name was Cutters. And the name of the album was Fetch the Ball, Cutters, which is really funny. It turns out that's not what it is. If she were here, she'd be really embarrassed, but fortunately only Goat is here. So, Fetch the Ball, Cutters. So if you have a dog and you've named it Cutters, please let me know. This is a very, very solid album. It's not going to win. It's not going to win my award for it, even though I really like it and it's very strong. It's just not as strong as the other albums that I'm going to be talking about now. If we think about Microphones 2020, another excellent album, just very solid all the way through. It was a revelation for me. I did not know their music. I don't think it's going to win either. It's a little bit too simple. I mean, not too simple, but just it's on one note, and I like a little bit more developed sounds. Fleet Foxes, very close to winning as well. I was amazingly honored that Robin Pecknold actually watched my video. That was a pretty amazing moment for me, but that's not going to win either. Definitely, it's going to be essentially a three-way tie between these three albums. Perfume Genius, I did not expect to like this as much as I did. This also happens to win the Wifey Award. My wife loved this album the most out of any album. I did not clear it with her whether or not I could call it the wifey. What do you think, Goat? Do you think she's gonna like calling it the wifey?
No.
Maybe not. But this album just, as far as like great pieces of art, they're able to communicate so much about love and longing and fear and, you know, sexuality and tenderness. It's very cinematic in its feel, and it's just such a great album. So that was very close. Ghost Poet, an album which I gave my highest possible recommendation. Ultimately, I did not like it as much as I liked his previous album, but if you have not heard Ghost Poet, in particular the song What Will Become of Me, what's it called? God, he does all these funny names. I think it's called Humana Secondhand. Just an amazing song. He's really able to communicate sadness and depression in a way that's also kind of light and funny. He's a great kind of mixture of sort of spoken word and rap and rock. What's funny about this whole channel, this whole thing, is just like breaking things into genres when genres are basically all messed up anyways. And then we have the surprise winner. I say surprise because as of now, the video that I did about Sarah Mary Chadwick's album has less than 100 views. The album is called Please Daddy. It is piano driven, it is confessional, it is meaningful, it is catchy, it's extremely raw, it's also very well made, it's very moving, it's very kind of disturbing while also being very sweet. It is just a great, great album from I guess she's from New Zealand, but she lives in Australia. She actually wrote me a little note. Is it in here somewhere? Which was kind of cool. Right? Didn't she write me a note?
Yeah, she did.
She did, didn't she? But where did it go? Did I lose my note? Oh no.
She might have just said like thanks.
Yeah, she said thanks somewhere. See, this is why I should edit my channel. But actually, this is... Ah, there it is. There you go. Love your YouTube channel. Thank you for reviewing. That's not why I'm giving it the album of the year. This is the album I listen to the most. And more than that, it's the album that I want to listen to the most when it comes to the singer-songwriter genre. I just love it. Just put it on, start listening to it. I would say if you had to listen to one track, I would say I'm Not Allowed in Heaven. It's just great. The strong, piercing voice that is strong and vulnerable at the same time. So that all leads us to what is going to win the ultimate Stampy. Is Toby gonna go bark now?
I think so.
Oh, okay. You know, what is going to win the ultimate Stampy? What is going to win this ultimate award? Also, I would say, Goat, you may wanna get ready to get your mask on. What is going to win the stamp of the year?
I think I'm gonna call him Stampy.
I actually got the Simpsons quote. Do you know, Goat, the Simpsons quote where Stampy comes from?
No.
So Bart gets an elephant and he's stamping all over the place and he goes, I think I'm gonna call him Stampy.
I think I'm gonna call him Stampy.
So these are the albums which I would say are the 5 best albums of the year in general. As you can see, 3 of them are from that category of singer-songwriter. Personally, that's what I like the most. You will notice there are no actual rap albums on here. I would say probably if Lupe Fiasco was a full album of that quality, it would have made it up there. Run the Jewels is very close to being up there. But realistically, these are the albums that I think are the best. And I actually don't know what I'm going to choose. I'm just going to go based on instinct right now as to what gets my album of the year. I have to be honest with myself. I got to do it. Let's go into the Strokes. It's kind of a typical answer. It's won a lot of awards as the best album of the year. The contrarian in me wants to say that the Sarah Mary Chadwick album is better. All these albums are equally good, right? Like, these are all just great albums. Like, you should just go out and buy all these albums just based on my recommendation. That's how good they are. But probably realistically, The Strokes has the most re-listenability, the most depth, except for Ode to the Mets. Feel free to @ me, bros, because it is still a weak track on the album. But I would say The Strokes is just the best album of the year. And, well, I can just say it. So that's going to lead us to the 2 things I said I would do here at the end. Now, the number 1 thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play, we'll do the GOAT Awards. So up here is the Greatest of Sometimes Award. Now, GOAT actually made a... If you want, you can try to find a way to get on screen here. Goat, you know, is a youngish female goat and her tastes have been evolving over many years. And so these are the albums. We have The Witches, which is the album I've already discussed, Melanie Martinez, which also almost won my Pop Award, Oliver Tree, which did win my Pop Award, and then Conan Gray, who Goat just came out of nowhere and told me, hey, I really like this album, and it came out this year. So look forward to in the next week, I'm gonna be reviewing that because I should take Goat seriously. So Goat, why don't you, wait, first of all, I'll put so the greatest of some time, you see Goat made a little ghost. Why is your stamp is so much cooler than mine, Ghost? Okay.
That might have been planned.
Yeah, it might have been planned. All right, so I'll do this here. Kind of wipe it off. Okay, what's going to win?
I haven't actually thought this out. I can't.
Okay, here, I'll put the paper right here. And then... Okay, just go quickly. Just go. Whatever one feels like right now, put it there.
Yeah, I can't see.
Okay. Conan Gray?
Yeah, Conan Gray.
Okay, well, I guess I'll have to have you back on the show to explain why that is the best.
It's a really good album.
It's a really good album.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the final thing I said I'd do is I'm going to play you a video. Now, I'm not going to edit it in. It's going to be crappy and weird, but it's called the Gdea Pechat video. So in Serbia is a very, very bureaucratic country, like many countries in Europe. They're kind of obsessed with bureaucracy and making sure that everything is just right. So there was this moment, like maybe 10 years ago, where there was a workers' protest in the town of Niš, okay? N-I-S is how it's spelled. And this guy gets up and he's giving this speech. And he just reads off the beginning, like, on this day, on this year, in this month, in the city of Niš, I hereby declare to you, and he's going to talk about workers' rights. And this dude, this like weird kind of drunk weirdo, comes out of nowhere behind him and points to the paper, okay? He points to the paper and goes, Gdea Pechat, which means, where's the stamp? Like this piece of paper did not have an official stamp from whatever organizing body might be running this thing. And this guy's trying to give a speech, and the guy goes, Gdea Pechat. And then the guy who's giving the speech turns around to see who said it, and somehow the Gdea Pechat guy just disappears behind him, and he doesn't know, and he rolls with it. And he starts saying, Radnici grada niš nemaju pečat. Gradici niš nemaju prava. Like the workers of Niš don't have stamps. The workers of Niš don't have rights. So I'm just going to show you this video a couple times just so you get an idea of how funny it is.
U Nišu, današnji datum, 3.12.2012. godine. U potpisu radnici Niša.
A gde je pečat?
Radnici Niša nemaju pečat. Radnici Niša nemaju prava. Prijatelju, ne znam ko ste vi, dakle se javlja.
It's so funny in so many ways. I mean, the main reason it's funny is just that this guy has no clue, and he's just hung up on this little thing, and just watch the way he pops up and then disappears.
Današnji datum, 3.12.2012. godine. U potpisu radnici Niša.
A gde je pečat?
Radnici Niša nemaju pečat. Radnici Niša nemaju...
So there you go. If you want to look it up on your own, it's GDE space JE space PECAT. Gdea Pechat. So where are the mats? Where are the stamps? There you go. So there's my year-end thing. Please let me know if you like this format. Did you watch the whole thing? Did you just watch the bits that were of your interest? Did you just watch for Goat, or did you just watch for Toby? You know, I'm actually going to let Toby get on here a little bit. Toby, you were a good boy. You were. Can you make some noise for the audience? Huh? What was your stamp of the year, Toby? Huh? That's life with Toby. All right. Well, have a good end of the year. We'll be doing some more videos as usual. I'll do some kind of catch-up videos. So for Goat, for Toby, for Bo, for the rest of the family. There's for the rest of the family. Should I switch to Gdea Pechat instead of there's the camera? No. Okay. There's the camera.